Tomorrow morning your alarm will never go off, not because the power failed, not because the clock broke, but because there would be nobody left to hear it, and the real story of what happens next is far stranger than abandoned cities and empty roads. Imagine every human vanishing at exactly the same moment. No warning, no explanation, just silence. What would happen to the world you leave behind? For a few minutes, almost nothing would seem different. Lights would stay on, cars would keep moving, computers would continue processing data inside buildings that no longer have owners. Yet beneath that illusion of normality, a chain reaction would already be spreading across the planet. Within hours, airplanes would become the first major problem. Thousands of flights cross the sky every day. Modern aircraft can fly themselves for long stretches, but eventually they need human decisions. Fuel runs low, weather changes, systems fail. One by one, aircraft would descend into oceans, fields, mountains, and empty cities. The skies would become quiet faster than most people imagine. Then comes electricity. You probably think of power as something permanent. Flip a switch and it appears. But power grids are more like giant balancing acts. Electricity must be generated at almost the exact moment it is used. Engineers constantly adjust the system to keep everything stable. Without them, many power stations would automatically shut down. Some hydroelectric dams would continue producing energy for a while. Some solar farms would keep generating electricity during daylight. But the interconnected systems that distribute power would begin collapsing region by region. Large parts of the world would go dark within days. Night would start to look different. Cities visible from space would fade. The glowing networks that define modern civilization would disappear one cluster at a time until darkness reclaimed places that have not truly been dark for generations. What about animals? The answer depends on the animal. Your ancestors spent thousands of years shaping other species. Some became companions, others became food. Many became dependent on human systems without realizing it. Millions of pets would initially be trapped indoors. Many would not survive. Others would escape through broken windows, damaged doors, or simple chance. Dogs would form packs. Cats would spread rapidly through urban environments. Some breeds would struggle. Others would adapt surprisingly well. Livestock would face an even stranger future. Huge populations of cattle, chickens, and pigs exist because humans maintain them. Without constant feeding and protection, their numbers would fall dramatically. Yet a fraction would survive and gradually return to something closer to wild behavior. Nature is often more resilient than it looks, but it does not rewind like a movie. It changes direction. One of the most famous studies of abandoned human spaces comes from the area surrounding the nuclear disaster at the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Researchers expected a biological wasteland. Instead, many animal populations rebounded in the absence of people. Wolves, boars, deer, and other species expanded into areas once dominated by human activity. That does not mean radiation is harmless. It means human presence can be an even more powerful force. What happens when that force suddenly disappears? Plants begin answering almost immediately. Sidewalk cracks widen, seeds settle into forgotten corners. Grass pushes through pavement. Tiny roots explore microscopic fractures in concrete. Years later, those fractures become openings. Decades later, they become pathways. Buildings seem permanent when you live inside them. They are not. Rain enters through damaged roofs. Water freezes and expands. Metal rusts. Wood rots. Glass shatters. Every structure begins negotiating with gravity. Without maintenance, gravity always wins. The geographer Jared Diamond once described civilization as a thin layer of order constantly maintained against natural forces. Remove that maintenance, and the process reverses. Not instantly, but relentlessly. Within a few years, many roads would become difficult to use. Within decades, countless houses would collapse. Skyscrapers would last longer, yet even they depend on pumps, seals, repairs, and inspections. Water intrusion would slowly weaken them from within. Would cities vanish completely? Eventually, yes, but not in the way you might expect. Ancient civilizations offer clues. The ruins of places once filled with life now sit beneath forests, deserts, and farmland. Future explorers, if any existed, might struggle to understand how thoroughly modern landscapes were transformed by human hands. Then there are the oceans. Most people rarely think about how much human activity shapes marine ecosystems. Fishing fleets operate across enormous areas. Shipping routes connect continents. Noise from engines travels through water. If humans disappeared, many marine populations would begin changing almost immediately. Some fish stocks could recover, certain predators might expand, entire food webs would reorganize, the ocean would not become a perfect paradise. Nature is not a perfect balance waiting patiently for humans to leave. It is a dynamic system, constantly adjusting to change. Human disappearance would simply become the largest environmental event in thousands of years. What about climate change? This is where the story becomes surprisingly complicated. Factories would stop producing, cars would stop driving, aircraft would stop flying, new greenhouse gas emissions would plunge, yet the atmosphere would not instantly reset. Carbon dioxide remains for long periods. The warming already set in motion would continue influencing the planet for decades. Some effects would unfold even without people present to witness them. Climate scientist James Hansen helped demonstrate how strongly greenhouse gases influence global temperatures. His work revealed that atmospheric changes can shape the future long after the original cause appears. The planet remembers, even when its builders disappear. Meanwhile, satellites would continue circling overhead. At first, everything would look normal from space. Communication networks would remain active briefly. Automated systems would keep operating. But satellites require adjustments. They require monitoring. Eventually, many would fail. Some would drift. Others would burn up as their orbits slowly decay. The digital world seems immortal. It is not. Data centers need cooling. Servers need power. Storage devices degrade. The internet survives because millions of people maintain it every day. Without them, much of humanity's knowledge would become inaccessible surprisingly quickly. Imagine libraries with no readers. Now imagine libraries that slowly lose the ability to open their own doors. That is closer to what would happen. Could any human traces survive? Absolutely. In fact, some might survive longer than civilization itself. Stone monuments would endure. Certain tunnels would persist. Some plastics could remain for centuries. Radio transmissions would continue racing away from Earth at the speed of light, carrying fragments of television broadcasts, conversations, and signals into deep space. Long after every building collapses, evidence of your species could still be expanding outward through the galaxy. That idea fascinated the astronomer Carl Sagan. A civilization can disappear from its home world while traces of its existence continue traveling across the universe. What would Earth look like after 100 years? Many cities would resemble forests interrupted by ruins. Bridges would fail. Subways would flood. Trees would dominate former neighborhoods. Animals would move through places once crowded with traffic. The distinction between urban and wild would blur. After 500 years, the transformation becomes even harder to imagine. Most modern buildings would be gone. Many roads would be nearly invisible. Large portions of the landscape would no longer resemble the world you recognize today. After thousands of years, only fragments remain. A foundation here, a monument there, a strange concentration of materials buried beneath layers of soil and vegetation. Future scientists studying the planet might detect an unusual geological signature marking the brief period when humans reshaped nearly every ecosystem on Earth. Then comes the strangest question of all. Would the planet be better off? Many people assume the answer is obvious. It is not. Humans damage ecosystems. Humans also protect them. Humans drive extinctions. Humans also prevent extinctions. You build dams, but you also restore rivers. You clear forests, but you also plant them. The relationship between humanity and nature is not a simple story about villains and victims. It is a story about influence. No species in Earth's history has altered the planet in quite the same way. That influence can be destructive, it can also be creative. The biologist E. O. Wilson spent decades studying biodiversity and the extraordinary complexity of life. His work revealed how interconnected living systems truly are. Remove one species, and consequences ripple outward. Remove billions of humans at once, and those ripples become planetary waves. The world would survive your disappearance. There is little doubt about that. Life survived asteroid impacts. Life survived ice ages. Life survived mass extinctions. Life is astonishingly persistent, but survival is not the same thing as remaining unchanged. The Earth after humans would not be a restored version of some ancient paradise. It would be a new world created by the absence of the most influential species it has ever known. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson hidden inside this thought experiment. You often imagine yourself as separate from nature, as if cities exist outside it, as if technology escaped it. But everything humans build becomes part of the same story: the roads, the satellites, the farms, the power grids, the ideas. Even your absence would become an ecological event. Tomorrow morning, your alarm will never go off. Not because the world ended, but because the world would keep going without you, quietly rewriting every trace you left behind.